Hey guys, and welcome back to FTB Interactions, where last time we set up automation for our assembly line here. I've built a little bit more around this, just to clean things up a bit. We also set up this wall of machines, ultimately to give us neural processing units, and then wetware circuits. We also set up a couple more blast furnaces for Naquadah and the silicon bulls. These Naquadah doped silicon bulls give us access to Naquadah wafers, which we can then create system on chips with. And this is a way to give cheaper circuit parts, and yeah, allows us to create the tier 1 to 4 circuits a lot cheaper. So in between episodes, I've added these two new laser engravers with two different lenses in there. One gives us the regular system on chips, and the other one gives the advanced system on chips. And then to make the circuits, we actually require the LUV assembling machine, which we crafted at the end of last episode. And I have this set up with molten tin, and this gives us a cheaper way also to make wetware circuits, and the only way to make the quantums with the ASOCs. And I guess we can pick up these quests for some free socks and ASOCs as well. We may as well do that. Alright, and there's all 4 quests completed. So the plan for today is to upgrade our power generation. So for power right now, we're generating about 60,000 EU a tick, which is decent, but I mean, we need a lot more for LUV power and above. As when we're running this thing, pretty much all of our power is depleted. So the plan to generate more power is going to be to do fusion, and the fusion reactor can allow us to create plasma, and then we're going to burn the plasma in the plasma turbines, and this can give us, I think, up to LUV power. But there's a couple of steps before we can get the fusion reactor Mark 1. This is an involved process to craft, plus it's a multi-block structure, so we need a number of machine casings and whatnot. So yeah. Let's start today with crafting our Fusion Reactor Computer Mark 1. So let's start with the easy stuff, which is the wetware assemblies. We can do this in our assembly line now that we have access to wetware processors. All we have to do is put in a recipe for this. And also this, I guess this is also ZPM tier, so I'm not quite sure we have enough power to run this thing. But let's give it a go and see if it manages to complete the craft. Right now this thing is LUV, so we either need to add a ZPM input hatch or another LUV input hatch. You know what, let's just try to craft a ZPM one, which is just some iridium plates, and also Naquadah cable, which also I noticed has to be coated in silicon rubber unless you want to pay the extra foil cost, which is a bit unfortunate since we don't have a silicon rubber assembler. So let's fix that by switching out our EV assembling machine here that we used to use for circuits. This is no longer in use anymore. So we'll swap out the molten tin, and then we'll insert silicon rubber in here. So we are producing silicon rubber, we made it last time, however we don't have access to it through our ME system. We're currently just bending it all into silicon rubber foil. So to be able to give it access to our AE system, we're going to put a fluid storage bus on the chemical reactor that produces our silicon rubber. And with that we can create our energy input hatch. And let's see if we have enough power to run this thing. So we'll swap out this one with the ZPM and request our assembly. I'm really hoping this works. Oh no, it's going backwards, no. Or are we just able to keep up? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. I think it's going backwards though. We're like right on the edge of this craft. I don't know if this is going to finish. Yeah, it's going backwards again. Alright, I wonder if we can kind of cheese this a bit and disable it and then let this energy input hatch fill up. And then try to get a bit more percentage on it again. Okay, almost depleted. Okay, pause. Hey, we got it. Nice. And there's our assemblies. Alright, so that completes that quest, gives us some free stuff, I'll take that. And we only need to do that 4 times before we can get our fusion reactor. By which point we will have more power, so that shouldn't be an issue as long as we can babysit that while it's crafting the assemblies. So the next part we need for this fusion reactor is field generators. Alright, so that leaves the fusion coil blocks and plutonium-241 plates. Let's do the fusion coil blocks first. So this is going to be 4 wetwares, we can do that. Superconductor coil blocks. We did set up auto crafting for superconductors last time with this recipe here. So actually let's import the recipe for the coil blocks. I believe there's a quest for that as well. Yeah, to get 8 of them. So are we able to craft 8 blocks? 8 coil blocks? We're missing bronze. Wait, really? We're missing bronze? I guess I was just using a backlog, but we can just add this as an alloy smelter recipe. And now we can craft these things. So the other part of this fusion coil block is field generators at MV. And this takes some circuits, some ender eye dust and osmium in an assembler. Or I guess we can use 2x signalum wire, which is probably a bit easier than handling the fluid. How much signalum do we actually have? 142. And I guess it is fully automated, so you know what, let's just use that recipe, it'll be easier. And we also need ender eye dust, which is blaze powder ender pearl dust. That's just done in a mixer. Alright, and the superconductor coils have finished. That should be the quest. Gives us 8 free. And we also unlocked the fusion ones. So the last thing we're missing for fusion coils is neutron reflectors, which take beryllium plates, tungsten carbide, and reinforced iridium alloy. Oh, and it also takes tin alloy, which is... what is this? Tin and iron. Let's start with the tungsten carbide, as I believe this is a blast furnace recipe, which actually can be done in Canthal coils. But since we didn't have any more space for our Canthal coils, I've set up a new tungsten steel. This blast furnace is running at IV and creating as tungsten carbide. I've set the level quite low on this, we just have 64 in here, since I don't think we need a ton of this stuff. The second last part is iridium alloy, which we can put in our implosion compressor to get our iridium alloy plating, and then we just need beryllium plates. Luckily we have thousands of this stuff. I think this comes from processing emeralds, and then we can just smelt this? Yeah, smelt it and then metal bender it into plates. Alright, and then I've set up a system here to make us our neutron reflectors. So we have a fresh EV assembling machine with the iridium alloy plates, the tungsten carbide plates, and beryllium. And the way we're getting the tin alloy is with this fluid extractor above it. We're just fluid solidifying this on site. So in the recipe for this neutron reflector, you'll see I have 32 tin alloy ingots, which is how much it takes for one craft of this recipe. So that gets filtered in this chest, and then the tin alloy goes in this fluid extractor via the item filter, and the rest goes in the assembling machine. And then the finished product gets taken out on the blue channel and put back in the interface to complete the craft. So yeah, once we get enough tin alloy, this will start crafting. It is quite slow, but again, we don't need a lot of these things. So with all those components craftable, we can put in the recipe for our fusion coil blocks. You just have to change the circuits here where you want to use wet weirs. And it looks like we can request this. Let's look at the rest of the stuff we need for the fusion reactor, which I believe at this point is actually just plutonium-241. And I recall seeing a quest for this somewhere. Ah yeah, here it is. So it says we can centrifuge ferric sands, which is the type of sand found on Aurelia. And we can get, what is this, chance of 241? Yeah, I think this is what we're after. I think we can fit a few more machines on this wall, don't you? So I've grabbed a centrifuge at EV tier. We're just going to add our ferric sand into this interface. And we'll filter it all into the molecular separator, where we get all of our small and tiny dusts. Although I guess we need a centrifuge again. Or you know what, we don't actually need that much of this stuff, so what I'm going to do is just send all this back into our AE system. Or, nah, let's do it properly. This is the lazy way. Let's move this and give it its proper place. Alright, so I set it up the proper way here. So the first step is the ferric sands, which gets separated. And then we have a robot arm to send all the tiny dusts into the packager. The plutonium-244 is then separated into this molecular separator, where we have a chance of plutonium-241 as well as uranium-238. And we also get sludge, which we're just sending into this fluid interface. And silicon dust is just going back to the original interface over here. So now we just have to come to Aurelia and just vein mine all this sand. This shouldn't take too long, to be honest. Alright, and with that prepared, let's see if we can request our Fusion Mark 1. I just have to make 2 more of these wetware processors this way. Just keep an eye on the energy in this thing. 2 left to craft. Alright, we got the circuits. Let's request our Fusion Mark 1. I'm curious how long this will take. Probably quite a while, but actually, is there any fluids we need for this? Just solder and alloy, okay. And finally, we have our Fusion Reactor Mark 1. But we're not done there. We need still 50 LUV machine casings, which in this pack is just chrome. So that's what, 400 chrome? Let's see if we have 400 chrome. So 50 casings. Oh yeah. Actually, how much chrome do we have? Just out of curiosity. We had like 449. Alright, so with that, let's start setting this thing up. And this is quite a big multi-block. Yeah, if we check the preview here, I think it's about 15 by 15. So now we have to decide where we want to put this thing. And I think we're going to have a few of these eventually. We need the tier 2 and 3, which are also 15 by 15. So the original plan was just to put it right here. So I think I'll actually build out a little area for this. Alright, so we built our fusion reactor here. I tried to keep it all within the chunk, and I've left space for the Mark II, and the Mark III is going to sit over here, I think. So the way this reactor works is we have the casings all along the outside. In the middle of this ring is the fusion coil blocks. And then on the four corners, we have energy input hatches. You can optionally put them on the outside as well to increase its capacity. And the capacity is actually important in this reactor, as if we look at recipes for this thing, every recipe has an energy to start value, which is the minimum required energy in the fusion reactor it needs to start the craft. I don't actually think it consumes all of that energy, it just consumes what the usage value is here on the recipe. And obviously the more expensive the material, the higher EU per ticket costs. But yeah, this reactor doesn't actually produce any energy on its own, in fact it will consume energy. However, we can produce some plasma, of which we have a few different types available to us. And then that plasma we're going to burn in the turbine. I was looking through some of these plasma options that we have. Like for example, in Omnifactory I did nickel plasma, which turned out to be quite efficient as we could get both fluorine and potassium from granite. But in this pack I don't think that's possible. And this is also a very hefty EU per tick cost to produce the nickel plasma. So I think the one we're going to go for in this pack is actually oxygen plasma. It does give us slightly less EU total output on the turbines, but it is so much cheaper to produce. So the recipe in the fusion reactor for oxygen plasma requires us to have carbon and helium-3. So that we can produce by importing carbon dust from our system over here. That goes into an electric furnace, which then gets fluid solidified into carbon, the fluid carbon that we need for our recipe. However, I don't think we actually produce enough carbon, as this is one of the first things that we set up. The way we're currently getting carbon is through this setup over here, centrifuging mineral crystals, and this thing is quite slow. I think this is an HV machine, but still. So to fix that, we could either scale this up, however I don't think that's going to be very worthwhile. There's other ways we can get carbon. In fact, we can get it from a lot of different sources over here. There's some fluids we could even electrolyze into carbon. But the way we're going to get more carbon is through charcoal dust, and we can produce charcoal using our pyrolysis oven here. In fact, we have a full barrel, as last night I did upgrade this thing. So this pyrolysis oven burns the wood from our tree farm, which I have sped up significantly with this collector crystal structure here. If we shine starlight on the tree beacon, you can see like this thing is just crazy fast now. It's I would say it's even a little bit too OP. This thing is going to produce so much wood that we can't even burn it all, to be honest. But yeah, that goes into that inner chest over there, and that's connected to the pyrolysis oven downstairs. I did also overclock this to EV. So this is going to give us plenty of charcoal to work with, in which case we just have to pulverize into charcoal dust, and then centrifuge into carbon dust, which is what these two machines here are for. So we have the pulverizer and the centrifuge. We just have to set some filters for this. So this one I guess will be charcoal, and we'll also add it to the interface over here. So that's going to import the charcoal from the pyrolysis oven back there into this pulverizer, where we can use the auto output feature, which will go into the molecular separator below it, give us carbon dust. And then that one we can put into this furnace, which is then going to go into the fluid extractor and give us carbon fluid. Okay, so that's one of our fluids. The next one is helium-3, which we can either centrifuge helium for. However, I'm told that if we replicate this, it's very, very, very efficient. Like, we can see that from 1 millibucket of neutral matter and 2 millibuckets of positive matter, we can get 1,000 millibuckets of helium-3. And the recipe for oxygen plasma only takes 125 every, 1.6 seconds. So the neutral and positive matter we actually produce for UU matter. This is how we get our UU matter in the mixer. And that is being produced over here. So we have the buffer of positive matter, neutral matter, and then that goes into the mixer to make UU matter. However, I think we're actually fine for UU matter. We got that quest reward last time of 64 buckets. So I think for the time being, I'm just going to put storage buses on here. Assuming we have enough channels to do so, actually. Hold on. Is this the one that's full? No, okay, we have some channels here to work with. So we can put one for positive matter, and then one below for neutral matter. And then we need a replicator to be able to replicate this. I'm just going to put in the recipe for this. Alright, so back here next to our carbon, we're going to put down our replicator. We've got a fluid interface for the neutral and positive matter, which is plugged into that item interface back there. And then on the right hand side here, we're just going to have some fluid conduit to import the fluids. Okay, and I think we just need a little bit of helium, or the helium cell, just to get it started. Actually, wait, hold on. This isn't what we want to do. We need helium-3, don't we? Yeah, we need at least one cell of helium-3 before we can do this, which means that we have to centrifuge it. And so to do that, I'm just going to temporarily set up another fluid interface over here. For helium, we have tons of helium in our ME system. And then we'll just filter it into this separator just here. And once we get enough helium, that will come out of the replicator, the helium-3 that is, and that's going to go into a drum. I've also added another drum for the carbon here. So all we have to do now is just put some fluid storage buses on these and plug these in, and then we can come over to our fusion reactor and import all of our fluids. So I think we'll have another fluid interface over here. And in this one next to our fusion reactor, we're going to ask for the helium-3 and the carbon. And then the two input hatches on the bottom, we're just going to filter each one for each of the fluids. And we almost have enough helium-3 here. 990. There we go. Okay, so we don't need the rest of this helium anymore. We can take this away. And then we can put in our cell in the replicator. And this will give us our helium-3, which we're going to auto output to the bottom side in the tank. Also, before I forget, I did also add an extra carbon source over here at our distillation tower. I think this runs the sulfuric naphtha actually. And this gives tiny piles of charcoal dust on the output bus of this distillation tower. So I've built a packager back here to turn it into regular carbon dust. And then I've just put that straight into a cache with a storage bus on there. So this is another source of carbon that we were just getting as a byproduct, but we were throwing it out with a voided barrel before. So I thought we may as well just make use of it. So that should bolster our carbon production a little bit more. So I think this fuel system should be plenty to saturate the input buses on this reactor. Before we turn this thing on and start making plasma, I would like to make our turbines to actually burn the plasma that comes out of this. Which leads us on to the next quest. And this actually gives us 2 free turbines, which is quite cool. So I'm not sure if that suggests that we can only support 3 with this. I'm not sure on the ratio between the Mark 1 Fusion and the Plasma Turbines, but I guess for now, since we get the 2 free, we're just going to start with 3 of these things. And the recipe for these at this point isn't actually too bad, it's just some tungsten steel. It does take a UV machine casing though, which is, I mean, osmium we have plenty of. I hope we have enough Naquada, and this is more tungsten steel and then wet weirs for the turbine itself. Although the casing is a lot of tungsten steel, and this is what, magnesium blue steel. Let me put in the recipe for this and see how far away we are. I think we're going to be fine though. We're up to 800 tungsten steel by now. Those blast furnaces have been running for hours and hours and hours. Which is why it's amazing to have this many blast furnaces and not have to worry about this. Alright, I put in all the recipes. Let's see how far away we are from this thing. We are missing Naquada alloy. Oh, this is Naquada alloy. I was thinking this was regular Naquada. Alright, well that means that we have to set up a blast furnace for Naquada alloy, which is osmiridium, Naquada, and argon. Luckily this is quite fast at 25 seconds. However, this is a temperature of 7200, which looks like it has to be Naquada coils or above. I wonder, do we have any more superconducting coils, or did we use them all? We don't have any more, but honestly I may just make the superconductor coils instead of making the Naquada, since we don't have quite as much Naquada as we do superconductors. So I wonder, can we request 16 of these things? We can, okay. Yeah, let's do that then. Alright, what do you guys think? The fusion coil looks better or the tungsten steel? For me, it's always the tungsten steel. This is the best coil in the game by far. Anyways, yeah, we got this blast furnace built. I don't think this is going to stay in Naquada alloy very long. I think we might actually repurpose this thing. But for now, we have it set to 64 Naquada alloy. This has to be LUV tier. So we have an LUV energy input bus with a flux point on the back. We already have argon over here, so that we just filter it on the input bus here. On the inputs, we have Naquada ingots and osmiridium. But yeah, we only need a little bit just to craft this plasma turbine. Still have to add the wire recipe, I guess. And now we can request our plasma turbine. Nice. Okay, so how many casings and stuff do we need for this? The quest wants us to make 30. Alright, can we request 30 casings? Okay, we can. Oh, this is cheaper than what I thought it would be, actually. I guess we get 3 per craft. Alright, and then we just need the energy output. Rotor holder, which we actually got for the fusion quest. We got 2 rotor holders over here at max tier. Although I think now we can actually create more of those things. And yeah, we really need better power. When that blast furnace I just set up is running, we have no power anywhere else in the base, so pretty much everything is off at this point. Let's just disable this for now. Alright, so the plasma turbine is completed. We got the quest for this, giving us some free casings, an extra 2 plasma turbines, some processors, stainless steel I wonder why it gives us stainless steel plates. That's a bit weird at this stage. And 50 levels, I guess I'll take that. So now we have to find a place to put these things. And if we check the preview here, I think it's the same size as those turbines over there. But as for placement, I'm really not sure. Let me see if I can move some things around here and get these in a decent spot. Okay, I think I managed to work out this room a bit more. I got a little bit carried away with the building. But we're going to put our turbines right on the end of the room here. And I've left space for another stack. Since I think we may end up expanding our turbines, but we certainly won't be building any more of the steel ones. So yeah, for now we're just using osmium rotors. We will eventually upgrade these, but these do give 100% efficiency at least. It's just that the durability isn't great on these things. And in fact, if we check the durability on our steel turbines here, the osmium ones are down to 17%. So we'll have to look at replacing those at some point. But we're fairly close to Neutronium, which I think is actually the best turbine material that you can use. So the way I have these set up is we have the input hatches, and then I have oxygen plasma on the fluid interface. In fact, I still have to partition a drive for that. Let's actually just do that right now. And we'll give it a name. Interestingly, on the preview, this thing also recommends an output hatch. Now, I'm not sure what exactly this is going to output. If I was to guess, it would be oxygen, which I'm not really interested in. We'll just end up voiding if that is the case. But we are still missing another rotor holder here. And to make them max rotor holders, we actually need HSS, which we have automated already. I'm not sure how many of you will remember this setup, but a couple of episodes ago at least I set up HSSG, and along with that we set up HSS dust. So that forward planning coming in real nice right here. So for now I've just chucked it in this blast furnace over here, and that's just going to give us a few ingots that we need. We just need 4 for the gear. So yeah, we don't need that much. And then this is 16x superconductor and a draconic core. So let's see if we can request our last rotor holder. We can. And while that's crafting, let's go ahead and fire up our fusion reactor. Actually, before we do that, let's craft a quantum tank just to buffer the oxygen plasma, just in case our ME system goes out. I mean, we will still be storing it in the ME system, but if, for example, we have an outage, then there will still be a buffer of oxygen plasma. So we're going to put that in between the fluid interface and the output hatch of our reactor, and then we'll just plug this in and send it all back into the interface over here. Alright, so now I think we're ready to start this thing up. We do have one turbine here at least, and I've also hooked up the flux point, or the flux plug, to import into our energy network. And here we're just using superconductor cables, since I think the LUV ones we don't quite have automated yet. So this is going to be fine. It's going into a flux plug, so there should be no explosions there. But anyways, to start this thing up, all we have to do is extract our helium-3 and carbon. And as soon as these input hatches fill up, helium-3 and carbon, and we're running. Awesome. We're getting a little bit of oxygen plasma. Let's import this into our turbine. And hopefully we're steady enough on the oxygen plasma. I mean, you would think so. Alright, and I assume this needs some time to spin up as well. Are we losing energy on our fusion reactor here? We're not, right? We're still gaining on energy. Yeah, so this thing should keep running. Of course we do have to supply it with energy, but we have the flux points for that. And once this spins up to its maximum RPM, we should be producing way more power than probably all of this stuff combined. Let's see if we can get the second one up and running. We need to get a few more rotors. Okay, I grabbed another osmium turbine rotor for the second one. Let's import our oxygen plasma in there. And it looks like we are getting just regular oxygen out of these things. So what I'm actually going to do is just swap this out with a casing, and I believe that just voids the output. That probably messed with the rotor speed, but it's still at like 3000. But yeah, we're already just about to hit 10k, which is what each one of these things outputs. And yeah, the last rotor holder also finished, and I have a spare turbine for that as well. Let's get that one going. And now all three, okay, we're already up to 24,500 EU a tick. Wow, this is a lot of power. Okay, this is amazing. This is awesome. I wonder how many more of these we can add. If you guys know the ratio between the turbines and the fusion reactor, let me know. But with 3 at least, we are actually still positive on oxygen plasma, which is good to see. All of these input hatches are filling up. Let's check how our fuel system is doing. The helium and carbon, I wonder if those are keeping up. It seems, I mean, the carbon is at least okay. I think we're fine for carbon. And what about the helium? Oh yeah, we have plenty of helium in here. Yeah, we're good. So if anything, I think this system might have even been overkill. But it's better to have it too fast than too slow, right? Alright, so this also completes us the quest for the plasma turbine. We can pick up our trophy and we get some casings for free. I guess we can also get this quest for uranium hexafluoride. So we can grab a bucket of that. We have 8,000 apparently. We get another trophy for that and a black hole tank. Alright, so having a look through some of our quests here, we're actually not too far off completing most of these chapters actually. I think the next steps for us is actually to work towards some of these creative items. We're going to need some draconium and neutronium. And some energy storage would also be nice, so maybe we'll look into draconic evolution. But again, this requires draconium, so I think we'll have to do this first. And the only way I can see of getting draconium is actually from the fusion reactor, by mixing osmiridium and red matter. And as for neutronium, this is also made in the fusion reactor with americium and nequadria. Although I believe there is a way to get tiny piles of neutrons. I remember reading this a while ago that the ender chicken can be dissolved in liquid antimatter, and this will drop neutronium for us. So that might be something we actually look into next episode. But for today, let's just finish off by encoding the recipes for these wetware supercomputers, as this is going to be a recipe in the Mark II fusion, which I think we will also look into next time. Oh, but this actually requires NOR gates, which we haven't made yet. And NOR gates is the emerald lens. Do we have an emerald lens already? I don't know if we do. Oh yeah, we do. We have this one at IV for crystal chips. So we can just put in a recipe for the NOR gates. And then this is the wetwares, which we should be able to craft without having to babysit the assembly line now that we have more power. Alright, let's see if we can order this supercomputer. We got all the parts for it. Oh yeah, we can see this is running perfectly now at ZPM tier. We don't have any issues with power at least. It has been some time since these plasma turbines turned on, and we're up to 48,500 EU a tick each, which is amazing. This is like more than double what we had before. And I think we've even got more room to squeeze in some more turbines, so... But anyways, our supercomputer just finished. And that's also our quest. Did we get any free for that? Oh, it just gives us the assemblies, okay. Alright, well with that I think we'll wrap things up here. We finally got our first donut built. Yeah, we'll come back next time. I think we'll tackle neutronium. Perhaps a creative item, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and thank you for the support on the channel recently. But take care, and I'll see you all on tomorrow's episode.